internet security, how it pertains to national security, and how you can protect yourself in your own home. We talked to one of the nation's foremost experts. Welcome to the Mike Broomhead Show.
Well, I got a message, I got a song. Can I get a witness? Tell me what's going on. I show the people I've been away.
Hey, welcome to the Mike Broomhead Show. You're going to hear from one of the foremost experts on internet security. Her name is Christine Jones. She lives in Arizona, chief counsel for GoDaddy. And we start off every show with something we call The Sweep. Now, The Sweep is sponsored by my good friends at Zerorez Carpet and Tile Cleaning. Let's start off nationally with Donald Trump, the biggest story of the week by far. Kathy Griffin, the female comedian, you probably know her best from being with Anderson Cooper on New Year's Eve. She's the one that gets drunk and naked every year, and she's something that you don't ever want to see either. And so she is no longer with them because during the beginning of the week, she aired a video of a photo shoot in which she held up President Trump's head in effigy, covered in blood and decapitated by the hair like in the ISIS videos. So she got a big backlash for it, and at first she defended herself. She was kind of joking about how bad it was going to be. And then when she finally got the gist of how angry people were, she issued an apology. I want you to watch the apology and tell me if you believe that it's sincere.
I sincerely apologize. I am just now seeing the reaction of these images. I'm a comic. I cross the line. I move the line, then I cross it. I went way too far. The image is too disturbing. I understand how it offends people. It wasn't funny. I get it.
Now, the backlash is justified. Do I think the Secret Service should take her to jail? Was she threatening the president's life? No. I've never thought she was funny anyway, but she lost her job with CNN. There is a casino hotel where she was supposed to perform called the Route 66 Casino. They've canceled her performance. There are people that are going to boycott some of her shows. So good, she got the backlash she deserved. It was a horrible thing to do. It really is disrespecting the office of the presidency. There should have been a bigger outrage from other networks, which there wasn't, which I was surprised by, but it is what it is. Moving on, Jared Kushner, he is the son-in-law to the president, also one of the chief advisors, is now being questioned by the FBI about the Russia scandal. The funny thing is the headlines say they are talking to him. But what you find out 3 paragraphs in is that you find out really they don't want to talk to him about anything other than a few details. He's not being investigated at all. And that's more important than anything else. A U.S. missile defense test happened in response to the North Koreans who are testing ICBMs, which are intercontinental ballistic missiles. We know the North Koreans are saying they now can reach the Japanese mainland with a missile. They can get a nuclear warhead on it. So what we did was the first successful test of an interceptor. They fired an ICBM and an interceptor missile. They got it in midair and took down that missile. That company that did most of the technology and building of that right here in Arizona. You're going to hear more about them later on in the show. Another big news story, as of Thursday, the president has informed the world that we will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord.
As president, I can put no other consideration before the well-being of American citizens. The Paris Climate Accord is simply the latest example of Washington entering into an agreement that disadvantages the United States to the exclusive benefit of other countries, leaving American workers, who I love, and taxpayers to absorb the cost in terms of lost jobs, lower wages, shuttered factories, and vastly diminished economic production. Thus, as of today, the United States will cease all implementation of the non-binding Paris Accord.
The 2 largest nations now that will not be a part of this will be us and Russia. Will we go back in? He's saying we're going to move out. Will other nations come in and try to negotiate like they have in the past when the president said we're getting out of NAFTA and NATO? We didn't leave either one of those. Renegotiations. We'll find out what happens with this. Also nationally, James Comey, former FBI director, is going to testify, according to sources, as early as next week in front of a Senate Intelligence Committee, and he's going to testify that he was pressured by, or whether or not he was pressured by, the president to back off of the investigation of Michael Flynn. So we'll see how that goes. He may testify as early as next week. On a national, less political scale, LeBron James, the king, and I love LeBron. The NBA Finals are starting on Thursday night. LeBron James had his home vandalized, but it was the fact that they vandalized his home with racial slurs. That was horrible. LeBron James says he doesn't feel equal sometimes, and racism is alive and well, and now you can see why. And finally, the NHL Finals. If you haven't seen the story, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Nashville Predators in Pittsburgh. Someone threw a fish on the ice, which is a Nashville tradition. The guy got arrested. He's facing 6 years in prison. Now that is a joke. It was a fish on the ice. Give me a break. They threw him out. That's fine. But why would you arrest him? That is just above and beyond. So that's really the wrap of what's going on around the country and around the world. Before we get to Christine Jones, you're going to meet her in just a moment. Let me talk to you about the good people from Zerorez. Zerorez does a great job on your carpet. I talk about the product Empowered Water, how much better for the fabric. No residue left behind. Carpets dry faster. They stay cleaner longer. They have a great tile special going on in the month of June as well. So you got to contact them. If you've not had your tile cleaned by them, you're going to be shocked at what color your tile grout really is. And also on upholstery. How about for Father's Day? Get Dad's favorite chair cleaned for him. The Empowered Water does a great job on all three. You are going to love the product. You're going to love the results. You're going to love the company. We'll be back with Christine Jones. Don't go away. We have a lot of questions about the internet. What is net neutrality? About hacking? Did the North Koreans hack into our systems? How susceptible are to cybercrime, cyber warfare? The best expert I know is Christine Jones, and thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
How many years have you been dealing with this? I mean, you go all the way back to GoDaddy. You were chief counsel for GoDaddy?
Yeah, I served as executive vice president there, and over about a decade, we worked on a lot of policy issues. So this, for me, goes back to about 2002.
So net neutrality, first of all, what is net neutrality and why does it matter to the average viewer, the battle that's going on in Congress right now?
Yeah, this is a really great question, Mike, because I get a lot of people saying, what should I think about net neutrality? Essentially, about 12 or 13 years ago, the FTC and the FCC started talking about, should we regulate the internet as if it were a common carrier? And up until this point, the FTC has kind of had jurisdiction over it. The idea behind net neutrality would be to say, should we treat all internet traffic the same? And if you're in business, you're going to say, no, I want to serve you a text message different than I serve you a Netflix stream, right? You should make money based on the open free market and what people are willing to pay. If you're a big government person, you might say, we want to assure a limited amount of return and give everybody equal treatment. And obviously, the free market has had some tension with that, right? So this is why we're continuing to talk about this 10 years later. And the FCC and the FTC, these two regulatory bodies, are still fighting about this all these years later.
So what are the dangers then of the net neutrality in the minds of those that are against it? What are the dangers of this? Is it the oversight by government are now able to regulate the internet? Right now it's freedom of speech and you got to kind of figure out what is fake news and what isn't, to give a term that's pretty new.
Yeah.
Is that the danger of you're not going to be able to say what you want anymore? You're going to be regulated kind of like I am on the air with the words I can use and the times I can say certain things.
There's that. I think, the sausage making behind the scenes is this fight between the FTC and the FCC, and we'll just dispense with that right now by saying they've agreed to work together. They're going to try to come up with a set of rules that makes sense for everybody. The danger for you as a user is you don't know at any given time which set of rules you're being governed by. So if an internet service provider is subject to one set of rules and Google is subject to another set of rules and Facebook is subject to another set of rules, what of your information is being leaked? What of your, not leaked, is being supplied? On any given day, at any given time, what are you providing? That's the risk to you. You might not care. You might be an open book, but you should know if you're on this website and you're accessing it with this system, here's who has access to it, here's who can buy it, here's who can sell it, here's who can profit from it. That's the real issue for consumers.
It kind of freaks me out a little bit. If I go on Amazon and I'm shopping for a product, the next time I open up Facebook, there's a Facebook ad for that product. And how did Facebook know I was on Amazon looking for that stuff?
Right.
So that is a little bit freaky to some people. And as much as you say I'm an open book and it doesn't matter, you go on your phone and you download an app and you agree to the terms. And what have you just agreed to? I mean, what do they have access to in your private data? Is that all part of this
It's all part of it, and the real thing, it's lovely to get served ads about things you want to see. You're searching for Nike shoes, you want to see more Nike shoes, great. And
You know what a fashion guy I am.
well, yeah, we can tell that just by listening to you on the radio all the time. But maybe you don't,
Right.
right? And you should be able to pick. If you want to get served ads that have contextual advertising around things that you've searched for, you should be able to pick. That's the rub. And I hear people all the time, particularly young people, saying, I don't have anything to hide, so I don't really get this whole privacy thing. But we have a constitution, and it gives you protection against unreasonable search and seizure. Law-abiding citizens should not be spied on, right? That is the issue, and we have to fiercely protect it.
Is it generational? Because my producer on the radio show is about 15 years younger than me, and his
That all?
yeah, about 15.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
He is of the mindset that everybody's watching all the time. Get over it. It just is what it is. And is that kind of the mindset of younger people, where people our age are like, I don't want you watching anything I'm doing?
It's definitely generational. So you and I are in the same boat here with significant birthdays coming up.
No kidding.
Even a generation before us is more protective. They're more
Right.
trusting than we are. We have an expectation of privacy. The people who came after us, so either millennials or the post 9/11 generation, have lived their life as an open book. The problem comes when you let law enforcement and you let the government,
Right.
the state actors, have access to data that they should not have access to. And I tell you what, you know me, I'm a fierce defender of the Constitution. And if you start to chip away those rights, even if you have nothing to hide, the entire fabric can come apart. That's the issue for me, and that's why this is an issue of passion.
I want to talk about internet security, which I know you had to deal with in the laws, the balance between protecting your clients' identity or information and dealing with helping and making sure that there's not cyber crimes being committed. So we get back, I want to talk to you about that if we can.
Yeah.
Christine Jones is really the expert on the internet that I know of, the laws and the legalities of what's going on. We one more segment with her. We'll be back in a minute. Joining me is Christine Jones, and used to be the chief counsel at GoDaddy, which is where this all started for you as far as the legality and the laws. You were in the ground floor of when it was necessary to have specific laws in place. I mean, this is when the internet exploded, correct?
Yeah, so when I went to GoDaddy, there were very few laws, and in fact, Bob Parsons and I talked about this a lot. We didn't really know how to handle things when people would complain to us, so that's kind of how we started to work on policy development.
So when it comes to the internet, there are two things I think that most people are most concerned about. Is when I'm online, can somebody get into my computer and steal my data or empty my bank account?
Yeah.
Or how susceptible am I to somebody being able to have access to everything I have?
And you should be concerned about this. If you have any device that's connected to the internet, you should be concerned. It could be your computer, it can be your phone, it can be your thermostat, it can be your vacuum cleaner. Now, right?
Right.
If you have any connected device, you should be concerned about somebody being able to get access to it and control it. And there are certain steps you can take as a consumer to protect yourself. You know, there are steps parents can take to monitor what their kids are doing. And by the way, if nobody hears a single thing we talk about today except for that, parents, know what your kids are doing online.
Well, it
Okay?
is mind-boggling, because to see that we protect our kids, we know who their friends are, who their friends' parents are, where they are, then we put Wi-Fi in the house, give them a device, and let them just do whatever. And people have
Terrifying.
ways of just reaching them, and they can just be trusting kids and not realize that the 14-year-old boy at another high school is a 45-year-old guy that's preying upon them.
Yeah, it happens all the time. So with respect to can they clear my bank account or can they get access to all my information, the answer is yes. So you should take steps to protect yourself. Whatever you have that's connected, you should know that you have a security device or a firewall or some other, and there are lots of software. I'm not going to endorse one today, but there are lots of ways that you can do that. You should know that that is a real threat. And again, even if you're not doing anything wrong, you have things that you want to protect. The security and stability of your home, your car, your bank, all of those things, they should be protected. Don't rely on the government to do that. That's your job.
And they're getting more sophisticated. I got a text message a couple of weeks ago with the Chase logo, and it said, Mike Broomhead, your Chase card has been frozen. Please log in. And I thought, well, I know my card's not frozen, you know, but at the moment, it was so professionally done, and it had my name attached to it in a text message. And I thought that was pretty sophisticated, and there was no way I was going to log in anywhere. I went online, made sure my account was fine, and then I went on about my business. But they're getting more sophisticated in how they're trying to get you to give them information, correct?
Yeah, and literally the attacks, we call them phishing or farming or whatever, there are lots of different types of attacks, get better, the crooks get better as the defenders get better, right? So I think you have to apply a level of skepticism. If you get something that says it's from your bank and something's going on, call your bank, right? The IRS, for example, never is going to send you something like that. Never. They're never going to do it that way. And again, it's a generational thing, right? There's a trust level in the generation above us. We may have a little skepticism, and there's no skepticism down here. So if you are subject to that kind of thing, and the more protected you get, the better the crooks get, ask yourself a question. Do I have my information? Is my card sitting in my wallet? Can I call my bank and verify it without responding to this? Don't click on a link,
Right.
You just have to apply a level of filter and skepticism every single time.
When we talk about internet security as far as national security goes, they've said that we have the most powerful military in the world, but where we're closer to being on level ground is when it comes to cyber attacks and cyber warfare. Where are we with that?
Well, I often talk about, particularly on my Twitter, we need more technologists in Washington. We need more technologists in D.C. because this question is not being answered. I've testified in Congress several times about the threat of Chinese hacking, for example, or Russian hacking. And, a lot of times their hacking is just to go get trade secrets or commercial information so that they can enhance their economy, but sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes it is against a power grid, against a state secret, against the military. We have to be more focused on that as a country and take it seriously. The resources that China and Russia and North Korea put behind their hacking operations far outweighs what we're doing because we're good guys, right? Our government doesn't sanction hacking like theirs do. So I think we're far behind, but I'm hopeful that with a non-politician in charge, right, in the White House, we may have, don't laugh, we may have a little bit of an enhanced focus on these sorts of things.
And I think that for most people, we hear about the North Koreans and what they've done, the Russians and the hacking. Well, obviously with the Clinton campaign and right now the investigations that are going on, people are worried that if it can happen to someone like that, what would happen to them? But on a national level, is there going to be where they can shut down our power grids or do that? So listen, I appreciate the wealth of information that you are. It's always fun to talk with you.
Yeah,
I learn something every time, and people can just protect themselves. Services to make sure they're protected. Don't be stupid. Don't click on links you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Christine Jones is the expert. We'll be back. Welcome back. It's time for one of my favorite parts of the show. We call it From Arizona for America. It's our way to congratulate and thank the fine Arizona men and women who have recently graduated from boot camp and are now serving in our country's military. So please join me in honoring Airman Trent Osier from Shadow Ridge High School in Surprise, Airman First Class Joshua Tyner from Sandra Day O'Connor High School in Phoenix, and Airman Jeffrey Miller from Page High School in Page, Arizona. For a list of more of our friends and neighbors that are from Arizona for America, go to the Mike Broomhead page at aztv.com. We'll be back in a minute with Broomhead's Best and hashtag this. Don't go away. Now it's time for my favorite part of the show. We call it Broomhead's Best. This week, the company is Orbital ATK from Chandler, Arizona. Why this company? Remember the missile test we talked about earlier where we successfully fired an ICBM, or an intercontinental ballistic missile, and an interceptor missile that caught it in midair and was able to destroy it before it could do any damage. Those two missiles, a large part of them were designed right here in Arizona by this company. They are a great company, and I'm glad they're here with us in the state of Arizona. Congratulations, you are this week's Broomhead's Best. Now we go to my other favorite part of the show. It's called hashtag this. Easy one this week, right? Covfefe. The president tweeting out C-O-V-F-E-F-E. Then he tweets out, the whole world's trying to figure out what this means. I love the outrage. What's funny for me, cable news saying that he doesn't deserve to be president now because of this, and it shows how unhinged he is. He sent out the wrong thing in a tweet. He had a misspelling. If I was thrown off the air when I misspelled a word, I'd have lasted 3 days. It would have never happened. So it really is a joke. So COVFEU, our hashtag this. We'll be back in a moment here to close out the show. Don't go away. I want to thank Christine Jones for being on the show this week. Great information about net neutrality, but also internet security. On the national level, you know, what's being said that we are on equal ground with other nations with internet security, even though we're the big superpower militarily. But how do you protect your own home? So thank you, Christine, for being on the show. Next week, I am so excited. The soccer club Phoenix Rising is going to join me. I think it is going to be one of my favorite segments ever because professional soccer, and I've never been a soccer fan, but they brought in a player named Didier Drogba. Drogba is one of the top players in the entire world, and he's playing right here in Phoenix for Phoenix Rising. We're going to meet the team. We're going to talk with them at the facility. It is going to be a great time, and you're going to see professional soccer. They're in line to possibly be an MLS franchise, which would be awesome to have a professional soccer franchise here in the state of Arizona. So I'm really looking forward to Phoenix Rising. I hope you'll join us next week for that. Again, thank you for all the well wishes from people over the Memorial Day weekend last week. Thanks for remembering my brother and the men and women who have served and sacrificed like him. And we will be back next Saturday with another show. We always appreciate the time when you are with us here. Check me out online. Make sure you're looking for us on social media. We love the interaction. We're going to be back here on next Saturday night with you, again, at 5 and 10 p.m. Have a great weekend, a great week. God bless.
Get more of Mike Broomhead on Facebook, Twitter, and of course weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on News Talk 550 KFYI.